Hi. So today I'm going to talk about if you're stuck in a toxic dynamic or any sort of a toxic pattern, but you just can't leave, You can be stuck in a toxic dynamic with a job, with a different person, and even in a way you treat yourself, you can be in a toxic dynamic with yourself. Or any sort of a concept as well, a toxic dynamic with the idea for, like security, for example. So it can be more conceptual as well, but then it's just a toxic dynamic and just a toxic relationship between you and another, even though sometimes it's with you as well. Anyways, I think a lot of times we do know that it is the right thing to do, is to leave and end the dynamic, but we find it very difficult to do so because and this is also, before I go into why that happens, this is also quite where shaming and blaming of people stuck in toxic dynamics can come from other people, where like, well, why don't you just leave, which is quite dismissive of what's happening in that sort of a situation. And it can feel very shaming, and then we can start getting these stories around how we are so weak, or we are like, so what is wrong with us, why can't we just leave, it's the right thing to do, why are we so stuck and everything. And all this shaming and blaming keeps you actually more stuck, and that can also come from external people, because honestly it's just not as simplistic. It's not just leave, it's not that, because this is the truth. People don't leave a toxic dynamic when they know it's the right thing to do. The knowledge is not the issue. They leave the dynamic when they feel safe enough to do so. So our, focus as a society or as people is always all the knowledge. Oh yeah, just tell this person it's not right. Does this person not know? Is this person stupid? Knowledge is half of the, answer. A lot of times, people need more courage, people need safety, people need compassion. And these sort of shaming uh, remarks towards them from, like, other people or themselves, like, is just gonna keep these people stuck. And if you are in that situation and you're shaming and blaming yourself and you just can't get out of it, the last thing you should do is continue this uh, cruel way of speaking to yourself. So now what happens? Even if you know that this, person is toxic or this dynamic is toxic, why can't you just leave? Because what has happened is, subconsciously, this person or this dynamic fulfills a need that you have. For example, a lot of times, sometimes this can be quite obvious. Like, I can't leave this person because this person's, let's say, my parent, and I'm financially dependent upon them. That is a very explicit connection per se. And in that case, you have to look at practical considerations and build resource before you can leave. Again, you're not safe enough to leave. It's not that you don't have the knowledge, so shaming yourself is pointless. But other times it's just more subtle than that. A lot of times in these toxic dynamics, people start believing the stories about themselves that, well, if they leave, no, they're never going to find somebody else. This is the only person that loves them. This is the only person that accepts them. Or sometimes, people might even have a savior complex. So, like, oh, if I leave this person can't make it without me. I need to take care of them. They're not, they can't take care of themselves. So I must stay for them. So essentially, subconsciously, you need to start inquiring, well, I know that I should leave and this is harming me, but then I keep staying. I stay not because I'm dumb, I stay because there's something else at play that is, keeping me here. What am I getting out of this? And it's important to inquire this with, like, a gentle curiosity and like a compassionate lens. This is not to shame you. um a lot of times, the reason you might be in a toxic dynamic is because of this lack of self-compassion and self-love. So shaming and doing that will just keep you more stuck. So the idea is to start inquiring, um what is so scary if I leave, what will I lose? And don't go logically because the mind's not going to be much help here, because this is an emotional connection, this is an emotional attachment that you can't get out of it. So it's more subconscious, so you have to get really still and you have to get in a place where you know you're at least if getting to a place where you love yourself and you're kind towards yourself is hard. At least get to a place where you're not actively hating, in just this moment of stillness where you're just curious, or just at least open. Try to adopt that stance and inquire, okay, what will happen if I leave this person? What's my fear? Your fear will tell you, well, I'm afraid that if I leave, I have wasted XYZ amount of years, months of my life, or like, I'm afraid that if I leave, I can't make it on my own. This person knows everything about me, and oh, I'm afraid that, if I leave, this person might harm me. That's also a thing. So it's this thing that it's not as easy to leave, and often people who are stuck in abusive or toxic dynamics, it takes them like cycles. It takes them at least I think I read a statistic somewhere, it takes at least like 7 tries to leave. So it's quite common. Do not shame yourself about it. Don't think you're weak, don't think you're dumb, don't think you're stupid, don't think you're like just less than other people or anything. It's just the nature of these dynamics that is just quite hard to leave. All your neurochemistry acts up. All your attachment system just wires up. It's just how it is. So it's not just like, it's not a moral failing or a character failing on your part. It's just like humanity. And anyone could be in that situation. um of course you must look into yourself and take accountability for why you ended up in the situation. What part did you play? Where what happened? But then again, it's not your fault and you didn't deserve it. So then the idea is to start seeing that, even when you find out that you're staying because of this XYZ reason. Yeah, I stay because, well, I have, this person is sometimes nice to me and I really like that. This person does a lot of grand gestures and I really like that. Or I stay with this person because then I have the appearance of a happy like marriage, or anything like that, right? So then the idea is not to then shame yourself again, that, oh, because I am, not, it's not about like, oh, justifying it. Yeah, because I'm getting this out of it, this is fine, I'll just bear it. The idea is to acknowledge what's stopping you, acknowledge what keeps you there, have compassion, and understand that you can still get that thing in a different way. Or if it's a thing, then inquire even further, like, why would you want an appearance of a happy life over a truly happy life? Because you could genuinely have a happy marriage or a happy life or anything like that. So the thing is, somehow growing up, we learn unhealthy ways to get our needs met. And needs are, quite common human needs. The need for, protection from threats. So then I don't want to leave because this person might stalk me and harm me and get obsessed and all of that things. Or, in some cases, some people even threaten you. If you leave them, they will like kill themselves or kill someone, anything like that, things like that happen. So please get help about that, involve authorities and just keep people in loop. But yeah, so then the idea is that, but then, you know okay, in this case, like, you want safety, then you should, figure out ways that you can get safety, not from this person but from other people. Can you build a support group? Can you reach out to authorities? Okay, let's take another example where you're unable to leave because you get validation from this person in some way. Even if it's horrible, he's still with me, he still chooses me, whatever. Well, what you want is this need for validation, that you're lovable, or just worthy of being with. So then, your brain's trying its best to get that need met, and you see a very unhealthy way to get it met, and that's why you're stuck in that. So then you have to take a step back and realize that, hey, what I need is validation, and I can self-validate as well, or I can get in dynamics where it's healthy. People can co-validate each other as well, but the price of getting your need met should not be you know abuse or violence, or just this sort of a toxic harm. So that's I is my hope that we become more compassionate to people who are stuck in toxic dynamics, especially with other people or their job or like sometimes with yourself, you know. So we get very compassionate with those people. If you are one of those people, it's time to get really, really compassionate. You did not deserve this, you did not create this, and there's nothing wrong with you. And then understand that it's not knowledge. People don't leave things when they know it's right. They leave when they feel safe enough to do so. So the priority right now is to figuring out how do we get safe. How okay. And safety, this is also emotional safety, not just like physical safety. Of course, that's a component for sure. But emotional safety in the sense that, well, I don't want to leave this person because, well, where will I be validated then? And you need to be validated to feel emotionally safe. So, you know, it gets like that. I'm taking a broader sense of emotional safety here, and we need to be looking into that. Um, yeah, I hope this video helps, and I believe in you. I know you will find your way out. Yeah, okay, bye.